Hello, everyone. Welcome. And to anyone watching on 1960, welcome. We're glad to have you with us as well. I have a couple of possible new resident introductions. I know one is here for sure, but I'm not sure about the others. So Charlie Campbell is here. Say hello, Charlie. I'm sure Debbie's watching on 1960, right? Oh, I'm sorry. She's at the doctor's, and you're here? That's okay. Bill and Mary Scott, are they here? Okay, how about Denise Crouch? Is Denise here? Okay. We introduced Michael and Gloria last month, and Nancy Oden, is she here? All right, moving right along. There is one correction on the agenda. I made an error and I apologize for it. You can tell that this lady is not Michelle Showalter. So I erred in putting together the agenda late last week. I'll use lots of excuses, but I just plain screwed up. So Melanie Bartola is here, and we'll hear from she and Renee a little bit later. Yannick is at a conference. Renee was at a conference. I hope Melanie's going to a conference. There's lots of conferencing going on. So we're going to start with our committee reports. As usual, we'll do them alphabetically by committee name. That means Mr. Griffin, you are up. Okay. Yeah. All right, take your time.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. You will recall my last report on the art committee was at the March resident council meeting. In my report, I gave a status report on our goals for the year. Today, I want to give you an update on them and mention a couple of other items of interest. We're still on track to welcome the new built-in curio cabinets scheduled for completion early next year. We prepared an outline of recommendations for construction and presented it to Yannick for his approval and to pass it along to the design team. Among other things, we recommended calling it the Resident Curio Gallery in keeping with the name given to the Resident Art Gallery out that door. We're still on track also to display an exhibit of Korean War memorabilia. Once the curio cabinet has been completed. The Korean War issue or exhibition, I should say, is a little bit difficult because as it turns out, I don't think there are very many Korean War veterans. Are there any Korean War veterans in the room today? One. So that tells you the challenge that we're up against. And so I suspect that we will expand it to include the Vietnam War. And I know there are a lot more of those vets who are still around. Next, we hoped to install a video presentation of notable past artwork by residents to be shown on the big TV screen in the bar area. Turned out not to be feasible due to the inability to enlarge our photos without losing clarity. They're just too blurry by the time they get blown up. So after several attempts, we finally decided to abandon the effort. Too bad. Now for a couple of new items. It was brought to our attention that while residents and guests have expressed great interest and appreciation of the beautiful Cassanti wind bells that are on display in the Alpenglow dining room, it turns out that most people aren't familiar with their significance or history. Yannick agreed to post appropriate signage nearby that would explain what they are. We took on responsibility for its design and have subsequently contacted the Cassanti Gallery here in Scottsdale, asking for their assistance. We're currently awaiting the results. I've previously reported on the efforts of our drawing and watercolor teacher, Larry Charles, to help and encourage our residents to submit photos for publication in the Arizona Republic weather page. So far, 6 of our residents have had their pictures published. In fact, 4 of them have had multiple pictures published. For those of you who subscribe to the Republic newspaper, or if you look at a copy that's always in the library, the weather picture, I will show you, is almost always, at least Monday through Friday, on page 2, and it's in a little square. Down here. Our residents, but I just want to make sure you know where we're looking so that you can keep your eye out. It always has the name of the person who submitted the picture right under it. So in any case, I encourage anyone oh, well, I forgot page 2. Fortunately, there's not much on it. I encourage anybody who is interested in submitting a weather picture for publication, please do so. And if you need some guidance, Larry Charles had printed out a whole instruction sheet suggesting ways to make sure that your picture gets published. And I've got copies of that. So if you'll contact me by email or by phone, I'm happy to share them with you. And that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next is Cam Sharp, Building and Grounds.
Thanks. I want to report that we've had a very high level of cooperation from housekeeping and engineering on quite a number of projects that many of you have submitted. Housekeeping has been able to replace the elevator carpets that were soiled from a number of dog incidents. These elevators are the new elevators are being ordered with a hard surface that'll be a lot easier to clean up in the future. Engineering has tested some high contrast paint on some of the trip hazards in the walkway, going from the walkway across the street into the 500 area. And when we reviewed the high contrast paint at night, we found out it made a spectacular difference. You could actually see the edge of the curb. Gray on gray is not very visible at night, but the high contrast paint that they put on really worked. So I want to thank engineering for that effort. Emergency preparedness. I've always wondered what happened when the lights go out here. And Mike Pascoletti reviewed regional electrical grid failures that are predicted as demand exceeds capacity. If we all go out and buy a Tesla, we can accelerate that process. He focused on the impact that it will have on V residents. And engineering reviewed the multi-level emergency preparedness process here in place here at V. And frankly, I was impressed with it. Emergency generation, which is tested weekly, will power the care center, provide cooling for residents who can take refuge in the Ocotillo room and the main dining area in the event of a total power failure, a regional power grid failure. The kitchen and one elevator will also be powered. Then a second level of preparedness provides for large capacity supplemental generators from local suppliers. And then a third level, if all else fails, is they've made arrangements with local and high country lodging facilities to lay off places where we can go. So we had some experienced emergency planning and energy management people commented that this was really a very good plan, and we appreciate it. The bottom line is you can rest assured that they've actually got a good plan in place. Water conservation. Tom and Shirley Becky who head the landscape subcommittee, were able to get 28 leaking irrigation lines repaired near the rear carport area. Residents who observe, if you observe irrigation leaks or problems, report the exact time, date, and location to the Beckys, and they understand how to communicate and get this done. So if you see irrigation leaks, let Tom and Shirley Becky know about it, and they can make something happen. Now you're committed, Shirley. All right, energy conservation. The committee discussed how we can address the high levels of energy that's wasted at the front entry, the cafe patio exit, and the lodge hallway ends. The committee plans some additional temperature surveys this summer so we can identify the areas of highest concern and get accurate information as to really what's happening. If you have questions or comments, feel free to contact us. The Buildings and Grounds contacts are posted on the B&G section of the Touchtown website. Thank you.
Mrs. Sonnenberg, I know you're hiding back there, but you're up.
Good afternoon. Oh, sorry. Here. Good afternoon. I guess I'm going to assume that all of you got the resident council email about the meeting today because you're here. And those on 1960. If you didn't get the email, that means you're not on the list. So please contact Russ Miller on our committee and let him know your email address, because we won't put you on unless you ask and give permission. So I'll have to put my glasses on. So in January 2023, the Communication Information Committee, which is the CIC, was asked by the resident council to implement an email system that would allow direct communication from the council to be residents. The chair of the CIC chose to set up a domain and spent months setting up the necessary infrastructure, which included identifying possible domain applications and needs for the resident council in the future. The guidelines clearly define the initial objective and the steps to use email only. There was extensive testing and rollout planning, and what was achieved by the CIC was a domain that could allow use for many business purposes. Setting up this domain with DreamHost required meticulous planning, infrastructure setup and development. User training for resident council was provided, and it was ultimately decided CIC would be the administrator for the emails. The feedback on the domain was thought to be too involved for users, and the committee chose to set up a new domain with Google Workspace in order to simplify the user experience and based on the needs for the resident council as well. The outcome for setting up communication directly from resident council is currently adequate. However, the means of resident council communication to residents may be changed from year to year as a new resident council and CIC decides appropriate for evolving needs. It's important for me to recognize our small committee. The dedicated CIC members are Lynn Breyer, Nancy Flanagan, Russ Miller, and Robbie Urban. And I thank all of them for their service. Respectfully submitted, Connie Sonnenberg.
I just want to underscore Connie's invitation that if you are not presently on the email distribution, just send an email to Russ Miller and tell him it's okay to add you to it. And that way you will get all of the resident council emails. There aren't that many, and we promise not to overburden you with those, but they're basically reminders of these meetings, notifications of significant changes in the, in what's going on around here and that kind of stuff. So Russ Miller is the guy. And finally, last but hardly least, Peggy Jordy, on behalf of she and Karen Brown, Program Committee.
Good afternoon. I'm Peggy. I think most of you know me, but I'm actually going to be thinking about changing the name of my committee to something that starts with an A. So I'm not always the last one here. But we'll get to that in another time. Today, I wanted to talk to you about our anniversary, our 25th anniversary that's coming up on October 22nd. It's such an important anniversary that we felt that just one day of celebration was not enough. So we're going to have a lot of activities during the month. Of course, the actual anniversary is the 22nd, and there'll be a committee, or there'll be a formal dinner and dancing in the Ocotillo room. On Friday, I'm going to just mention a couple of these things, and there's not any need to actually remember them, but just remember, keep your calendar pretty free for October because there's going to be a lot of interesting things. On Friday, the 18th, there's going to be a breakfast on the patio to start a celebration. The 19th, there'll be entertainment by the pool in the afternoon. The 20th, which is a Sunday, there'll be a special brunch from the chef and possibly some entertainment. The 21st, there'll be a wine tasting for all the residents, and Marissa will be instructing residents on how to make a delicious and attractive charcuterie board. After 1 year on the wine committee, I think I have pronounced that correctly. October 22nd will be the formal dining and dancing. There will also be a possibility of having some quieter music on the patio around 5 to 7, maybe a stringed instrument group or something soft. The dance band or DJ will be set up on the pool patio. We are also organizing several activities taking place starting of October 7th and continuing on various days. One of the plans is to request residents and employees to be videotaped, those who have come to the V in the first 5 years. So 1999 to 2004. That's 5 years. And we will be contacting you and asking you various questions. Nothing that requires a lot of thought or anything, just what it was like when you moved in, where did you come from, how things have changed. Then we will place this video on a loop and have it hopefully in the bar. We're still working on that. Then we will play, please don't be intimidated by the thought of being videotaped. I promise it will be painless. We are also going to have a wall of residents' pictures. So if you have some pictures in your photo group, photo book, or wherever you keep your photos, taken in around 1999, it doesn't have to be you alone. It could be you with your friends or relatives, and we're going to pick you out in the group. And we're going to paste them on a board of some sort and have the board in a public area, maybe the bar or the lobby area, so that we can all see how we have hardly ever changed. Also happening during the month are some games and activities with prizes. A scavenger hunt will probably be the week of October 7th. Mix and mingle will probably be during that week also. And during the mix and mingle, bingo cards will be given to residents with questions relating to 1999, such as where were you in 99? Were you retired? Did you have grandkids? Those type of questions. This is going to be handed to you, and then you are going to have to talk to people that you don't know. And that's going to be a true mix and mingle. So you're going to ask other people these questions and write their names down with the answers, and then hand these cards in at the end of mix and mingle, and there'll be a drawing to give prizes. Not everyone that hands one in will get a prize, but we'll draw those cards and there'll be prizes. We will also be having short games during the week around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, either in the bar or the Ocotillo room. where we would hand out quizzes such as how much did bread cost in 99? How much did gas cost? Were iPads invented before or after 1999? Again, there will be drawing for prizes for those questionnaires that are turned in and are correct. Also, if there is time, we will have a majority rules game during the month sometime with questions relating to 1999. Some of these activities are still in the planning state, so complete details are not confirmed at the time. But I want you to be aware of this, and I want you all to make time to come to one or several of these activities. I think we can have a pretty active October and have a lot of fun. Sincerely, Peggy Jordy. Also, I wanted to mention that since I won't be here for the summer, I have appointed someone at the end of a meeting to jump up with their hand raised and ask the first question, ask the first annoying question. So I don't want you to miss me too much. Thank you.
Be sure to let me know who that is. Thanks, Peggy. Honestly, we're about halfway through our year, and I think it's important to acknowledge the tremendous work that all of our committees do, and you hear several reports a month from them. So let's give all of our committee chairs a round of applause. You'll note this phases 2 and 3 status. I'm keeping that on the agenda so that we remember that we've got these issues that are coming, and July 8th will be a significant first date. We're informed by engineering that that will be the day that one of these main elevators is replaced, or start the process to start replacing it. Obviously won't be done in a day, but be aware. And as things go on, as time goes on, we're making sure that we're encouraging both B&G, Robert and the whole team in engineering, and Yannick to keep us informed on all the progress on phases 2 and 3. You understand that 2 is this year, 3 starts next year, and there will be some carryover. So let's see. Oh, bylaws election. I wanted to thank everyone who participated in the election. We had a substantial participation. Over 300 people voted. That's really good participation. We appreciate it. The new bylaws have been adopted, and Renee, very first thing he did when he got back from his conference was post them on the Uniguest website. So if you are really bored and want to avoid going outside, go ahead and reread the new bylaws if you choose. They'll be up there now until we change them again. Hopefully not in my lifetime, but we'll see. So we're going to move into the cabinet discussions. Debbie is here. Hi, Debbie. That's Debbie Campbell. Another new resident. Hi, Debbie. Welcome. Charlie did a PowerPoint presentation on your medical visit. It was really well done. We're glad you're here. Thanks. Which of you folks would like to go first? Melanie. Okay, Melanie Bartola.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Melanie Bartola. I'm the administrator over in the Care Center. I used to come to these meetings monthly, and it changed this year, so it's a little different. I have no written report, but really just here for questions. So if there's anything I can answer, please raise your hand. Thank you. I have questions. Okay, Renee's going to help me with the mic here. Is this how I'm supposed to do it?
David
Just a-
Lemire, Unit 300. This isn't a question, it's a commendation. I'm past chair of the Finance Committee, and I meet with the Finance Committee, so we really appreciate the work that you're doing to bring in private pays and Medicare patients, because they are really helping the bottom line through 5 months this year. We're over $80,000 to the good, most of that coming out of your operation. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. It really, I'll just make a comment on that. It's a lot of work within the care center, but it does take our whole cabinet team to accomplish this with turnovers, with getting things moving. So we really do focus on that with the goal of really just meeting the operational budget here at the community. So
Melanie, can you give us a today
Mhm.
update on COVID and what's going on over there and when we can come back over?
yes. So I'll start with the end of your question. You can come back over now. We had a spike in cases. I know Yannick sent out 2 memos. And I think he had the total numbers for the care center on that at the time, which was just on Friday. We've had no new cases since then. I've learned there's a COVID spike in the summer. And I get industry publications. There are about 30% of nursing homes are seeing a spike in COVID-19 right now. So we're not alone. We had 5 cases in assisted living, 2 in our Canvas memory care unit, and around 10 in skilled nursing. So we had quite a few cases. It seemed to be pretty contagious. All of our residents are together at meal times and different things. And when you're in close quarters like that, it's just really hard to stop that kind of spread. So we, in the past, really during the active part of the pandemic, we would send out updates with every new case. And so I think this one kind of took people off guard. It seems like maybe the community was wanting more. We had people calling with questions. So I will say I'll extend my apologies for people feeling a little bit in the dark on, can we come over? What's going on? But really, you know, in an outbreak like this, you're going to see an initial update. We discourage visitation, but we aren't in really the phase where we were early in the pandemic where we said absolutely not. So really for the safety of the whole community, when there's active spread like that in a small space like the care center, you may come over and visit and the person you're visiting may seem perfectly well. And then they were actually sick and then you get sick and then it carries over to IL and then we're, dealing with another set of circumstances that we have to address. So I hope that answers your question on where we are. Okay. But we reopened dining and activities within the care center. We have 2 people remaining on isolation right now who will be off isolation this week. So. Visit as you normally would, not discouraged. We actually always encourage people to visit their friends in the care center. So just kind of business as normal.
We have noted, I'm sorry, did someone else talk? No. We have noticed that there's some assisted living people that come over here and they're very welcome and they play games and everything, but they were still coming over during this outbreak. Is that okay with you?
So I can't, I know all the inner workings that are happening with testing and the frequency that we're testing and when the last case was and the spread. So I can't prohibit someone from their resident rights from coming over. We discourage that. But some people may not ever even been exposed to someone with COVID. They may stay in their apartment most of the time, not go to the dining room or not go to group activities. So for me to give a blanket statement and say you can't go to IL, I don't feel comfortable doing that. One decision we made was to stop the salon use and the dining room because those are areas where we have more direct control over. So I'll say it's tricky.
So it's a lot different than in 2020.
It's a lot different. Yeah.
And also, do you, if someone here was not feeling well, do you test?
If someone, no, we don't have tests. We don't do testing in the care center for independent living. I'm not sure the current status for the wellness office, but the blanket message would be, if you don't feel well, just stay home. Don't go spend time with other people. Just kind of see how you're doing.
Thank you. As someone who spent 1 month in skilled nursing, recovering from my leg surgery. I can't tell you the professional and wonderful care I received. And as every day progressed, starting from the very beginning, when I was totally incapacitated, I was taken care of so well. And then it progressed. And finally, I could walk the halls by myself. That was such a big step. But Melanie knows how I felt about being there. And I'm truly indebted. Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
There's some remodeling going on over in the care center. Maybe you'd like to address that and how far along we are and where we expect to be.
Yes, we are very far along in our dining room renovation. So our assisted living dining room and our skilled nursing dining room are currently under renovation with the furniture to be delivered and installed tomorrow. So we'll be reopening those dining rooms, considering everything comes, right, all in one piece, and we have all the tables and chairs. We'll be opening on Wednesday. And I talked about skilled nursing and assisted living. If you're not completely familiar, our memory care Canvas unit was remodeled within the past 5 years. So everything there is all really, really fresh and new. But we will be opening those dining rooms on Wednesday.
Hi, maybe I missed it, but what is the status in memory care of the COVID situation? Is there any there or has it been resolved?
We have one person who is at the end of their isolation. So we had 2 cases total on that unit. And I will mention the CDC requires a healthcare setting, which we are, to isolate for 10 days. So I think the general community is still like 5 days. Maybe it's less now. It keeps just lessening. But healthcare has not changed. So when I say we still have anyone on isolation, they're on isolation for 10 days. So they're on isolation a longer period than the general public. So when we're at the end of isolation, that really is far past what the general public experiences. So visitation is okay on our Canvas, our memory care unit. It's okay back there. And we're back to kind of normal.
So in the memory care specifically, there are no active COVID cases
There's one person still on isolation.
in memory care.
Correct.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Curiosity question, if I may. What does Canvas stand for and where is the origin of that label?
I have a joke. How much time do we have? I'm kidding. No, my joke is how much time do we have? I'm just being silly. So Canvas represents our 4 pillars that we are focused on for our memory care. So one is an expert team. I might have to look at Renee to help me remember. One is an expert team. One is like focusing on technology. And there's a lot of studies about some of the things in technology, like virtual reality, that are very good for people with cognitive impairment or memory loss. The expert team, the technology, a person-centered approach. So we don't have a kind of everyone wakes up at 7 and goes to bed at 10. Everyone has a unique approach to their care, so they're involved in their care planning. And our 4th one, I know it. Life stories is we get to know the resident and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and provide their care around their own life story. So those are things like the memory boxes outside the room, our programming for kind of this holistic approach, mind, body, and wellness. We aren't just providing medical care. So those 4 things, those 4 pillars weave together to make a beautiful canvas of someone's life. That's what Canvas represents. No applause for that. It really is great. We're really just enhancing our picture around a lot of the stuff we've been doing for a long time. But I will tell you, the people that were most excited were our staff. When we rolled it out to the staff, they were proud. And then they told me about all the things that they do. And because I sat down with all the staff members and talked about it, I had a handout then of the 4 pillars so I could talk about them better. But they felt special. They take a lot of pride. I mean, all the staff, we have a lot of pride in really working here at Viet Greyhawk and within the care center, or people delivering that care have a lot of pride. But you really see they're kind of quiet heroes there on our Canvas unit, and they do such an amazing job. They were excited about the brand change. So I have that. Okay.
Nay, you're up.
All right.
Okay, are you gonna be banning?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? Perfect. So the microphones do work in this room then. I just want to make sure we're all in agreement. Just kidding. This is actually a great change for me. The last 14 years I spent looking at the back of your heads during this meeting, sitting in the back corner right there. So I'm very happy to be up here. So thank you, and thank you for giving me some time up here. I'm just briefly going to cover transportation. So as a lifestyle director, activities and programming, fitness and transportation kind of fall under my domain. And we have a great team of drivers. I'm sure most of you guys have seen them either on a doctor's appointment or going to an outing. But we have Aaron, who's our lead driver, Manny Mesa, Luis Uribe, Daryl, who's our new guy. Then you still might see Adam, as we talk about the anniversary, Adam Lewandowski was actually here. He was hired before we officially opened our doors. He was hired in September of '99. So if you want to talk about stories, I'm sure I can record them for hours and hear all these different funny stories that Adam has. But just kind of want to bring up some fun facts about transportation. And I shared this in program committee the other day. So Aaron has been working a little bit harder than he usually does, and he's a very data-driven individual. But I'll give you the 30,000 foot view. So in March and April, we had an 85% approval rating for our transportation. I mean, people always say, oh, you never approve my transportation. But when you look at the big picture, we're approving 85%. So we did that in March and April. Then May, it jumped up to 91%. So that does not include all of our bus outings or all the times that when residents are in the vehicles with our drivers say, hey, well, since you're in the car, can we just run by Walgreens real quick? Or, hey, can you stop at the bank for me real quick? Because the guys are always happy to do so if they have the time, because we're here for you, and they want to make sure we get the most out of our miles when you're in that vehicle with us. So those are just some very like 30,000 foot view stats, and we're going to continue to keep those percentages, and that does include our care center transportation requests as well. So I think the guys do an amazing job of accommodating when possible. I know when we say no, it's because we really can't take you, and we always do try to offer alternatives. And the other thing that I want to bring up too is our vehicle maintenance. That's very important to me, very important to all the guys. You could probably ask any of the guys. They probably spent a lot of time under their hood of their own personal vehicles over the years. Same thing with me. I grew up working on an '85 Chevy pickup. So anytime something goes wrong, we want to get fixed right away. I know we had an issue the other day, and Mr. Holden can attest to this, going to a baseball game, and on the way back, the AC just was not kicking the cold air like it should have been. Like I said, those things we take very seriously. That afternoon, we were on the horn with our mechanic. We had the vehicle in there the next day at the shop. And I think about 2 or 3 days later, we had the bus back blowing cold air. So we take any of these things seriously, any kind of oil changes, tires, you know, especially if it's involved, if it's safety related, we get it done right away. So every now and then, the drivers might pick you up in the small bus, which you're maybe not accustomed to. It's probably because one of our vehicles is in the shop because we want to make sure it's running 100% for you guys. But please note that that's something we do take very seriously and we do stay on top of, is our vehicle maintenance, because we want to make sure if you're in one of our vehicles, A, it's safe, and B, that you're very comfortable. So, but that is my spiel. So I don't want to take up too much time, but if you have any questions, I can just repeat them to the group. That way we don't have to run around with a microphone. Any questions, comments? Yes, Mrs. Rourke. What did I learn at the conference? You know, these conferences are always fun. She's referencing, I went to a lifestyle conference last week in Chicago. So I met with my corporate lead and the 9 other directors from the various communities. So we went over various topics. Like I said, you know, when you have 2 days, you get a lot of information over a short amount of time. But kind of going back to transportation, we talked about, you know, vehicles moving forward. You know, do we want to start looking at hybrids for the communities? Looking at the types of buses we purchase, just from a transportation standpoint. From a technology standpoint, we talked a lot about Uniguest, which is, you know, Touchtown, which is now Uniguest, right? You know, because we discussed this last Monday at the CIC meeting is, you know, do we look at other options? And this is something that our corporate lead is kind of in charge of. And this is something he does kind of on a semi-annual basis. He looks up at least twice a year to see what other platforms are out there similar to Touchtown. He said, yeah, there's a lot of great platforms out there, but you know, when we start looking at them and the implementation from a community level, you know, starting from the ground up, you know, there's a lot more cons than pros. What else did we discuss? We talked about living well and how that's going to evolve in the future. We looked at a lot of the trends of what boomers are what's important to them as they look at moving into CCRCs. So like I said, it was a lot of information, and I actually have a lot of homework to do. And actually some of it too was actually just a good, you know, part of that second day was, you know, effective management, you know, which is something that I look forward to kind of diving deeper into, how to manage Mrs. Jordy a lot better. You know, she has me running everywhere. Just kidding. No, but you know, there was a lot of different subjects that we touched upon, and there's a lot of homework that I have to do that I'm very excited about. But anytime I go to these conferences, which are usually every other year, you know, we all have all the directors have their strengths, and just to kind of be in that same room with them for 2 days and hear some of the things that they're doing, it's very invigorating. It's very I'm excited to be back and start to steal some of their ideas and use them here. And just like, you know, they're amazed at some of the things that we do here. You know, they're like, what's a spring fling? I'm like, you guys never get like a big community barbecue together? Like, no. I'm like, yeah, it's simple. Like for me, it's simple, right? But for them, it's you know, quantum physics. But like I said, it's we all have our strengths, and I think we all get very excited to see each other be in the same room, and just to kind of discuss and bounce ideas, you know, best practices. So yeah, there was a lot that we covered, and there's still a lot more homework I have to do, Mrs. Rourke. Any other questions? Yes, Mrs. Lemire. Mm-hmm. So the question is So the question was, if all departments are looking ways to be more cost efficient moving forward, how does that affect valets and other staff? So Mrs. Lemire, I'm sorry, the valets don't fall under my, no, it's fine. It's still a good question, but like from a lifestyle standpoint is, you know, with my drivers, I'll use the drivers as an example is, you know, right now, obviously we have a lot of residents who are out of town. So the need for transportation it's not crazy right now like it is during the springtime. So with our guys, and my guys are really good about this, is you know, we always say, all right, the priority is transportation. Make sure we get residents to and from, we accommodate as many rides as we can. B, let's double check the vehicles, make sure they're safe, do all your pre and post checks, make sure they stay clean. Then then I ask them, hey, if you're done with that, come see me, because I might have a project or two for you to do. But if there's nothing for the drivers to do, they're more than happy to leave. I had one driver leave today at 1:30 because it's such a light schedule, because they understand they don't want to sit here for 3 hours just to sit here for 3 hours and make whatever their hourly wage is, because we want to make sure that the time that they're here, we're using it in a very efficient manner. So that's what I do with my team. You know, we have certain things that we want to do on a daily basis. Then if they're done with that, they're more than happy to kind of go home and beat that traffic out of here. I hope that helps, Mrs. Lemire. Of course. The question is, who runs the valet group? That falls under resident services. So Jason oversees the valet services. Yes. So the question is, why aren't the valets identified in the lobby area? I'll double check. And once again, I'll double check with, no, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I can, I'll mention this to Jason and see what he can do to kind of maybe correct that or find a solution for that. Yeah, no, the valet team is, they're very hardworking, and they're a great group. So we're lucky to have them. Any other questions about valet I can answer? Just kidding. Just kidding. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate Renee's explanation on the AC on the bus, because when we asked Yannick about it, he said, oh, no, that's a new resident amenity. It's a sauna on wheels. And we just, no. A couple of wrap things. I want to thank Tom Ensign, who is covering for Sue Anderson, our secretary, taking the notes today. So thank you, Tom, very, very much for that. I wanted to circle back real quickly on the bylaws thing, because there's an important difference that the bylaws have on the election timing. So it's going to be earlier this year. And you'll see more about that as we get closer to the fall, but it will be essentially a month earlier, that process. And the last thing that will be affected by that is, obviously, you've met for the committee chairs. There will be openings on committees this fall. And I hope you will take a minute and think about how you might be able to help the quality of life here at V by jumping on board a committee. And you can certainly talk to the chair or wait until the carnival event where you'll have a chance to talk to some of the people on the committees. So please give serious consideration to joining a committee and getting involved. So that's it. Oh God, Peggy, we're out of the Q&A now. Yes, ma'am. What? Yes, I did. I did. I said, well, I don't have anything to report on the phases beyond what you've already known. There's great relief that you're leaving for the summer. Oh, I'm teasing, Peggy. Come on. Everybody's got to have somebody, right? If I were you, I would strongly consider moving your crap out of the hallway. We don't know when that work is going to start. I have not heard a specific date for that, but I think it would be certainly safe. Otherwise, they're just going to have to open your door and shove it in there, and God knows what happens. So I would encourage you to think about doing that. And anybody else who's leaving for the summer might want to think about the same thing. You'll note on the bottom of the today's agenda, we're talking about the summer schedule. There will not be an open meeting for council in July or August. I know you're all very disappointed. You got 2 months off. Council will be having a closed meeting in July to go over some of the stuff that just we've got to handle related to bylaws and some other things. So there will be a closed meeting, but we won't have an open meeting again until September. And we'll rejigger the committee report schedule to make sure we don't miss any of the ones that were supposed to be occurring in July and August. Okay? Anything else for the good of the order? Well, thank you all for coming and have a lovely summer.